Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more.
You're listening to The Man That Can Project with Lachie Stuart, a global movement created to empower men and open up what's really going through their minds by having real and raw conversations about life's unique challenges and our individual ways of processing it all. Welcome to The Man That Can Project.
Yo, gents, welcome back to another episode of the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachie Stuart, and I am your host, and I'm a men's performance coach focused on helping men to take their life to that next level by understanding the 4 pillars of muscle, momentum, meaning, and mateship, and how you can utilize that to master the 8 areas of life. Now, I'm really excited to have you guys here. We've got over 260 episodes now with incredible guests who thrive and are specialists in their own fields, along with a ton of solo episodes from myself, which originally started out as a journal sharing things that I was learning from my throughout my life, but have also now become some structured teachings in there. So if you're a new listener, definitely make sure you spend some time to go back through there. You'll won't regret it, that's for sure. Now, gents, before we dive into today's episode, which is going to be about your relationship with structure, right? Let's say there's so many people, but also myself. I lacked structure, and I also believed that I didn't need it. I enjoyed going with the flow. And at that point, having that side of the coin, but then also having the side of the coin where I really dialed down on creating structure in my life to the point where I probably had too much structure. So that's why I want to give you guys my insights around having a healthy relationship with structure, how you can utilize it to create more freedom in your life, to get more results, but also manage your own mental well-being, because often we can feel anxious and stressed as a result of lacking structure or even having too much structure. So we'll go into that today in just a moment's time, but I just want to bring up again the Man That Can Project's Inner Circle is now live. Now it's going to be capped at 100 men, and as soon as it hits the 11th of January, it is going to blow up. I know for a fact it's going to blow up because we're doing so much work for the back end, and I've got some exciting things coming on there to add more and more value. It's already one of the most incredible things that I've seen in the space for men to get accountability, create momentum in their life, and also just gain perspective on how to improve their way of thinking, communication, and many other things. We've got men from all around the world joining this community because it is an online community, and it's phenomenal to see them raise the standard of who they are as men and raising the standard of their life. So, gents, if you're curious and you want to check it out, head over to the manthatcanproject.com/inner circle 7-day free trial. There is a 7-day free trial there for you to jump in as if you're a member, get access to the 12-week game plan and join our community and see what it's all about and start noticing you're going to get so much value from it. So, gents, make sure you head over for that 7-day free trial. I'm very excited to see you join the community. I'm looking forward to staying in contact in the future. As for now, let's get stuck into the episode, Your Relationship with Structure. All right, gents. I'm wondering what everyone thinks of that sound. I've got to work out how to add some more sounds to that so I can make a better transition I've listened back to a few episodes and I don't know whether I'm sold on it yet. So give me some feedback around that transition noise, or if you know how I can add some more to my Rodecaster to make the experience better for you guys. But as promised, let's talk about your relationship with structure. So for a long time in my life, gents, I'd lacked structure. The only real structure I had in my life was knowing that I had to go to work, and I would finish work and sometimes I'd try and get to the gym. Okay. And life just wasn't going as I wanted to. I think back to when we were children, right? And I think everyone can relate to this. The structure that we had was brought upon us by our parents, right? They had, obviously, whether you were going to daycare, there was generally a set breakfast time because they were getting ready for work. There was a set lunchtime because they were trying to fit feeding you in and around their schedule. And then there was obviously a bedtime. They wanted to get you in bed so they could start building that circadian rhythm for you and help you learn and grow. So we had structure as children. We had an idea of when things were going to happen. But what we also did really well, or what I believe I did really well, and I believe kids do really well, is in the space and time between the moments that we know we have certain things, we were just free to do as we wanted and free to explore and be curious as kids, whether it was playing Lego or if you're like me, I loved being outdoors, skateboarding, riding push bikes, all of that sort of stuff. But we had the freedom to just allow our mind to wander. And I always think back, and I constantly believe we can learn a lot from children just in the way they are curious. They always see everything as well, obviously sometimes it still is the first time they've seen it. And they really show a lot of respect in the way that they can sort of almost manipulate you to get what they want because they just don't give up and they're really persistent. I think it's an incredible thing to learn from, but also, they do build some structures, but in between that time where they've got free, they make the most of that. And the reason why I wanted to talk more about our relationship with structure is because I learned from my own experience that for me personally, and once again, I encourage you to take what you want from this and disregard anything else that you don't think is going to add value to your life. Because I think ultimately, as men who want to take responsibility and take ownership for our life, we need to trial these things, and things that work well for you, keep doing things that keep allowing you to feel better about yourself, or building your confidence, or improving areas and aspects of your life. Do more of that, right? You'd be silly to stop it, really. So when we look at structure, right, as I mentioned, once I finished school, I didn't have too much structure. And I was obviously when I was focusing on the sport and all that sort of stuff, things were cool. But when I sort of was going through the rut that I went through at that point in my life, I look back upon that now and I had no structure, right? I would go to work, but even at work, I did not want to be there. I had no intention. There was no real set smoko time. There was no real set structure on what would happen before work, what would happen after work, what would happen on my weekends. It was just always open to do whatever I felt like. And while that also gave me a lot of flexibility, I was still being conditioned to think away because I was being influenced by the people that I was surrounded by. And not that that was always a bad thing, but there came a point in time, right? I believe for myself, I truly have always wanted to be a high achiever, and I have my own, I guess, motivators for why I want to be a high achiever and what a high achiever is in my eyes, right? And because I was clear on that, I believed I got to a point where the structures that I had weren't serving a purpose for me, weren't going to allow me to grow and develop the kind of life and into the man that I wanted to be. Right, so it was over, learning and reading and doing all these things. I started creating some new structures, right? I started making time. I started structuring time to read. I started structuring time to really exercise. I started structuring time to work on a side hustle or a business. I started structuring time for all of these things that were important to me at that moment. And as a result of making the time for it and using structure, I started seeing some incredible results. And I started realizing that, hey, if I can get super disciplined and super structured, all aspects of my life are going to thrive. How could it not? I'm starting to see results with this, with structure. And I became the structure king, gents. And for those of you who, this will be out. Actually, no, this won't be. So you would have been on the webinar last night, which would have been December 2020. So depending on when you're listening to this, there is a webinar that I've released on how to structure your year for success. I got to the point where all aspects of my life had to be planned. If they didn't, I freaked out. So it gave me two sides of the coin. And I really want you guys to understand this, that everyone, I guess, probably thrives under different, I guess, strictness of structure, right? I believe it can obviously improve your efficiency. It can improve your certainty in self and the direction and clarity you have for achieving results, or the direction that you have for your life. I truly believe it can do that because, you know, life is so busy and it's very distracting that if we don't have, I guess, a plan or some structure to follow, you know, it can be overwhelming. We can get anxious because there's a fear of the unknown and things like that, right? And they're all normal human emotions to experience in times like this. So I guess what I went to work on was, how much structure do I need to feel like I'm in control? How much structure do I need to get the result or start creating the results that I want? And also to make sure that I'm feeling balanced and I'm feeling like I'm happy within myself and within my life. What does that structure look like? And I've over the last sort of 6-7 years, I've played around with various styles. And when I'm looking at my floor at the moment as I'm still going through the yearly planner, because I'm doing that in heavily detail, I believe this year will be the most structured I have ever been in my business. Right, and within this 12, and probably in my life, right, and I'll explain the breakdown of this, right. I've got all the events that I want to attend, the events that I would love to go to with my coaches and mentors. I've got long weekends. I've got my wedding planned. I've got all the men's huddles. I've got the foundations workshops that we're running next year. We've got 4, by the way. I've got the men's circles. I've got, as I mentioned, long weekends, my birthday, all these things that are important to me. They're all structured and scheduled in. But what I'm going to be doing as I implement it into my diary when it rocks up, hopefully it rocks up soon, will be day-to-day structure around that. Now, one thing that I know is really important for me to control overwhelm, so I don't want to feel overwhelmed, I don't want to feel anxious, and I really want to have that sense of achievement, is I really require a lot of structure within the office when I'm working, because my phone, for example, I've turned all my notifications off, and I've had my notifications off for probably 18 months. And when I'm in the office, I have my phone on Do Not Disturb as well, because I want to be able to focus. I want to be able to be completely present with what I'm doing while I'm in the office. But one thing I know for myself is my mind does wander. So by having structure around tasks and giving myself, I guess, a guesstimate or an estimate around how long I believe each specific task should take, or I would like it to take, I'll be able to look back at my daily structure, and go, okay, this is where I needed to be at this point in time, right? And so I believe from that point, it's a healthy relationship. Where things weren't healthy for me when I look at structure, and I want to give you, I guess, the pros of having some structure, but I also want to highlight some things that you can or be aware of when, as you're starting to structure things, because I wasn't really taught structure, and I know a lot of men aren't taught structure, and it's something that we're scared of, because we have to make decisions, right? When we're creating structure, we're deciding on something. So I look at that, there were points in my life where I became so structured and so disciplined, where I wouldn't go out to social events. I wouldn't stay up late. I wouldn't, what else would I do? Watch footy. Like, I had all this structure in place that took so much of my life away, because I thought that's what I needed to do in order to be successful. And as I mentioned, how I believe structure can improve your efficiency, create certainty and clarity, I believe it can also create anxiety. It can suck away fulfillment and happiness from your life, because you're not structuring your life in a way to just be, I guess, step into that feminine essence. And for those who aren't overly aware or interested in, or maybe even educated around the masculine and feminine, I think the feminine, and once again, I'm not talking about males and females. We all have masculine and we all have feminine traits, but it's that ability to be creative, the ability to let your mind wander, the ability to just think, right? So that for me is a really important thing, and it's something I never allowed myself to do, right? I didn't schedule time. If I my mind would start wandering. Sorry, I would look for ways to distract myself, whether it was with television, whether it was with getting addicted to something, whether it was gym, running, alcohol, all kinds of things, video games. I would find ways to not allow myself to have that structure. Not allowed to have myself to have that free time. So that was almost like a structured distraction. And I look at all these structures that I've put in my life, and through reflection, right, through allowing myself to have that reflection time, which I would say is the downtime where it's not really structured, I've allowed myself to figure out what a healthy relationship with structure looks like for me, right? So because I'm very career driven, I'm very excited about what I do, and I'm very passionate about what I do. So there's a lot of structure in how I can set aside time for me to be creative. Now, in that creative time, there's no plan. I just allow my mind. I might go for a walk. I might start with a meditation. I might sit in the sauna, whatever it is. But I just want my mind to be free of work stress, of life stresses in general, and just start thinking. Okay, so there's no real structure to or intention to it. I just want to see what happens. Right, but then there's other moments where it's like, okay, the structure around dates when I'm running workshops, so I make sure I have enough time to fill the events. They're evenly scheduled throughout the years. I can be organized because I don't want to be anxious and overwhelmed because there's not enough organization going into it. So I've thought about all these things, and I believe they're healthy structures to it. I've also made sure that I prioritize and I structure time to look after my health, to put into my relationship, to put into myself, right, to put into my mateships. Right, I've made sure I structure all that, and some people may think, or that may actually be over the top for some people. But for me, that's what I believe works for who I am as a person in the stage of life that I'm in. So when we're talking about creating structure and what your relationship may be, it's got to be trial and error for you as an individual. But it's hard to create any structure if you aren't certain on what you want. Because how can you create structure if you aren't certain on what you want? I know what I want, and I've spent time working out what I want. Or even if I'm not 100% certain on things that I want, I've made a decision around what I think I may want, because then that gives me direction to work towards, which will, as I've spoken about many times, it's given me feedback around whether that is really what I want, or maybe it's just an infatuation with that. So guys, keep that in mind as well. It's hard to really create structure if you don't have an idea for what you want to create for your life. And as I've spoken about many times before, the real, probably the first time when I gained an idea of what that looked like for me and what I wanted was when I mapped out a 10-year vision for myself and a 10-year plan for how I wanted to be as an individual and how I wanted my life to be. Because it made me start thinking in a completely different way, and I had to learn to shed the thoughts of, that's not possible for me, I'll never get that. And I had to start thinking with an abundant mindset, which really challenged me. But it also steered me in the right direction to learn new things, to be open-minded, to network with different people. All these things that developed my communicational skills. It put me in the uncomfortable zone to speak up. It put me in a uncomfortable place just to really stretch and grow myself as an individual. But as a result of that, it's made me more certain in who I am as a man and as an individual, and what I want to create for myself. And as I feel I'm clearer on that, and I have more clarity around that, it makes it easier for me to structure what has to happen. And I'm really excited for this year. And as I mentioned, I feel like this is the most structure I've ever taken into my business before. And I feel like it's the compounding effect of year after year working with men like you guys who are listening, okay? Year after year of learning of what some common things are and how we can overcome things, maybe what I can do on the back end to structure your experience with working me better, to make the whole moment, from the moment you go, yeah, I want to work with Lachie, or I want to attend a workshop, or I want to be a part of any of the programs. From that moment, how do I add as much value and make that process incredible for you? So I've put all these structures in place to, one, make it easier for me, two, make the experience even better for you guys, because it's all about the experience and it's all about the result. And so I'm learning these healthy structures year upon year on how to be better and how to deliver more. And for that, I'm so grateful for that I'm getting to learn these lessons. So we need to think about this, guys. Structure and having a healthy relationship with structure can make your life so much simpler, and it can improve your quality of life tenfold if you work out how it's going to best serve you, right? I believe you can take away a lot from what I've said here, or doing your own research around structure and routines and goal setting and all of that stuff, which is phenomenal, but you won't really know where you're at and I guess what that next step for you is until you start working on whatever you feel like that first step is for you. But I guess to start creating structure, my first thought would be get clear on what it is that you want or what it is that you're working towards, right? Make a decision and create some certainty around, this is what I want, this is who I want to be as a man, these are the standards that I'm setting for myself, okay? And the next question will be, okay, what has to happen next for me to start making progress and moving towards that? Because once you've found that, that's where the feedback, the challenges come, but also the progress happens. So, gents, thank you for listening. I hope you took a lot away from that with your understanding, I guess, your relationship with structure and obviously how structure's added so much value to my life, but also being mindful that in a way too much structure can also bring upon anxiety, because if you have to, for example, you might have your day mapped out today in the structure to achieve what you feel you need to achieve, and then life happens, right? Life happens all the time. Kid might get sick, or an emergency might happen, or your computer might go flat, or you might lock yourself out of your house. All of these things have happened. You'll then got to learn to be, I guess, fluid with that and be able to sidestep or pivot and continue being proactive in another way. So keep that in mind, gents. I think it's highly, highly important at that point in your life. So that's enough from this episode. I do want to wrap up and say thank you so much. If you got value from this episode, please share it with a mate in your life. You're part of the ripple effect, guys, of how we can help more men create abundance in their life, take their life to that next level, be a better man, father, son, mate, individual as a result of the conversations that they can hear. And you guys can be a part of that by sharing these tools and resources, or even gifting them a 7-day free trial to the inner circle, or just inviting them to the free Facebook group, or inviting them along to a workshop, right? There's so many things that you can do, or just pick up the phone and have a bloody good conversation with them. Gents, every time you share this, whether it's on social media or through a text message, or you leave a review, it's helping all of this content be heard, and it's helping make a massively positive ripple effect in the world, because I do believe everything that we discuss and the guests that we have on these episodes and all the work that we do with the Man That Can Project is invaluable to helping men take their life to that next level, and ultimately I believe saving lives and empowering lives. So thank you guys for being a part of that, and I appreciate you being here. And until the next episode, have an incredible week. I'm signing out. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachie Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.